The Wheel of Time just dropped its first three episodes on Amazon Prime. And I gotta say, as much as I liked Amazon Prime's schedule of releasing shows weekly, it does make me very irritated that they do this shit of like dropping three episodes all at once. Like, if you're a critic, trying to binge three episodes is a little irritating when they could just drop just one episode. And also, like, the idea is to get you hooked onto the show that you want to see more, but a lot of these pilots are such good pilots that you don't need another episode. Like, they dropped three episodes to show you Invincible, and Invincible, I guess spoilers for the end of that episode, had Omni Man murdering the Justice League equivalent in that universe at the end of the episode. That was how the episode ended, and yet they still felt the need to drop three episodes. First of all, I know this seems like lame to complain about. It's like, who cares how it releases? I mean, I feel like the longer you air the show, the more successful it will be. So it just means that, like, if it's a good show, I want more success for the show, and this is a good show. Let me explain my experience with the Wheel of Time books. I love them. They're fantastic books. I'm not going to compare this series to the books. I don't do that with movies and TV shows because I don't give a shit, basically. I mean, yes, if there is something of note when it comes to that kind of thing, I will bring it up. But for the most part, to be honest, it really doesn't matter. Books and movies are very different art forms, and I have different things I appreciate about the different art forms. So bringing up is this better than the book is usually bullcrap. And also, people who rate movies based off whether they're accurate to the book piss me off, and I think they're pieces of shit who probably shouldn't be reviewing movies because movies aren't made to appease the fans of books. Sorry. I mean, they can. It's possible for that to happen, but like, really, these movies are made not just to be visual adaptations, but to be good in their own right, and not just good whether they're based off the book. And I hate how like people who rate movies based on books, they like discredit the movie. Like, oh, this movie sucks. There's nothing good about it because it isn't accurate to my book. And then you'll like watch the movie. It'll be like a beautifully shot movie. It'll have like these amazing scenes or whatever, or performances. But it's okay. But none of that matters because it wasn't accurate to their book. Like, I'm not saying it's impossible for you to dislike something because it's not accurate to the book. That's fine, but you have to like give credit where credit is due. If it's still a good movie, you cannot tell me it's a bad movie just because it's not accurate to the book. Sorry, bad. You cannot like it because it's accurate to the book. I don't know. That's just how I feel about that. So again, throughout this, I'm not going to be talking about the books. I'm also not doing episode by episode weekly breakdowns of the series because I watched these first eight episodes. These were very dense episodes. There's a lot of plot. There's a lot of character stuff. It literally felt like I watched like Fellowship, right? And I'm not gonna do a review where I'm breaking down the Fellowship, right, or Two Towers, something like that. This did a good idea. These first three episodes did a good job setting up where our adventure is going and some of our characters and what's going to go on. And if you know anything about Wheel of Time, this series could go on for a pretty damn long time. We're talking a series that has 14 different books and multiple prequels. It's a very long series. There's a lot here to adapt from and do things with. So, yeah, I mean, if you are a fan of this series, there's a lot to be excited here. And I think this show was pretty good for the most part. I did have some criticisms with it. First of all, the first episode I think did a terrible job at introducing us to the main characters. I got more engaged once they went on their adventure and stuff. It felt like Fellowship to me. Fellowship does a great job, except if Fellowship's first half wasn't good, basically. Because it was like, obviously in Fellowship you're more engaged once they start going on their adventure, right? But but I'm okay with sitting through the first half because it's good. This the first episode is not that good. I think it just kind of like throws you into these characters' relationships, doesn't do a lot setting them up and writing them very well. But once they get on their adventure, I understand the relationships more. I'm more invested in the characters, and all the cool stuff starts happening, and I really enjoyed it. And luckily, the first episode is only an hour long, and there's nothing, and it is engaging for the most part. There's some, in fact, the adventure kind of starts towards the end of that episode. So, it gets going pretty well. It sets up our story, our characters, but it's just not as good as well as it could have been, and that's a little frustrating. But it works. And yeah, the adventure is engaging. My issue with the show, and this is kind of my biggest criticism, is it does not look as expensive as I thought it was going to be. And people might find that dumb as a criticism, but like, Amazon's doing an adaptation of Lord of the Rings, and that show's supposed to have a massive budget. I kind of expected that in this show too, and it did have some decent effects, but they still felt like I at least expected on the level of like a Game of Thrones level budget, and at times it felt like it was that level, but then other times it wasn't, and it felt a little bbit off. But I think as genuinely the show went along, the effects got better in episodes 2 and 3. But I think episode 1 they're a little bit wonky. Episode 2 they get a bit better, and by episode 3 I think they kind of do that. But it is a massive show. There's a lot of huge, grandiose environments, interesting characters, and it looks like to be a pretty good show. And when the season wraps up, I'll definitely review it. I just want to make this video kind of talking about my first impressions of this series, because I think there is a lot here to get excited about, and I, for one, cannot wait to see where this show goes. I think it was pretty good, pretty solid, had a lot of really good characters and interesting moments, and I'm excited to see where it goes. One of I think the best things currently streaming on Amazon Prime. Honestly, we're checking out, so definitely check the show out. If you haven't read the books, definitely read them, because I'll be honest, I do think the books are better just from what I've seen of this show. They do a better job at setting you into this world, but that's just because like books have an infinite amount of time to do that, and TV shows don't. So it's like doesn't really contribute to much. But like I said, I'm not really here to compare books to movies or TV show adaptations. If it's a good movie or show on its own, it doesn't really matter, even if I am a fan of the books.